Welcome to Open House, the real estate and mortgage show on News Talk 580 CFRA.
With Frank Napolitano and Paul Rushforth, here is Steve Gregory.
Weekend number 2 of Winterlude.
Yeah, it's
Super
great.
Bowl weekend.
It's going to be a beautiful weekend, nice and warm this weekend, perfect for open houses. Right? No, you're not going to agree with me or what?
Our open house is still a thing.
Oh, so I'm in a cul-de-sac. I don't really know my neighbor very well across the way. He listed his house with another company, and last weekend there was 22 cars that went through the open house. We hosted open houses on Charles units out from Clément Homes out in Rockland. It was super busy. My agent was swamped out there. It's open houses are a thing. I mean, it's a great way. And here's the thing: people think that open houses are, a way to pick up sellers or a way to pick up buyers, and, to sell the product. It's a way to showcase what you do as a company and what you do as an agent to showcase that home. And you're really encouraging sellers to come through. They're the people that are buying and end up selling in the end. So.
Oh, I thought everybody was in Punta Cana today.
Well, that's where Frank is. Frank, welcome to the show from Punta Cana.
Oh, thank you. It's summerlude here, and I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
All right, get it over with. What's the weather like there?
It's a little cool today, about 28, I think.
Oh, are you in your Speedo?
There's a bad image.
Well, we finally have someone. We finally have someone with brains sitting in your seat, Frank. We have Charles Clément from Clément Homes joining us today, and someone with some brains.
Good morning, everyone.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hey, good morning, Charles. I'm glad you're keeping my feet warm.
Thank you.
As nice as it is to see you, where's Natalie?
Natalie was a little bit shy.
Yeah. Natalie lets Charles do it. Everyone thinks it's scary to be on the radio, right? But it's once you get on, you finish, and you're like,
maybe it has
fun.
more to do with being with you, Paul.
That has probably a lot to do with it. Yeah, that has a lot to do with it. Yeah.
How are the homes selling, Charles?
We're doing good. We're being creative. It's a tough time, but we're doing well.
You are in a sweet zone, though, for townhomes, condos, and the way you build them, right?
I think now we're finally recognized for how we built, what we do, and it's encouraging in tough time to be doing good.
But that's why quality sells, right?
Yes.
Listen, I've had the opportunity to. I'm approached by a lot of builders, and I've worked with some builders. Quality is important. I find my name is very important, and I want to put my name behind a really reputable product. And Charles' product is really, really, really good. The way they build is not matched anywhere in the industry. Some of the things little things that people don't realize, like having the party wall in a townhouse as a concrete wall so you don't hear your neighbors. People are like, oh, that's not that big a deal. Well, go live in a townhome without a concrete wall between the neighbors, and you tell me if that's a big deal.
Yeah, so you'll notice it within a week.
You really notice it within a week, and there's a lot he does that just builders don't do. One, because he puts his name. It's Clément Homes. He puts his name behind it, and because of that, he has to build a reputable product.
You're talking about him like he's not here.
Yes, I know. You know what, though? I do want it because it's early in the show, and I know people always say, where is he building? How much is he building? What is he building? So, Charles, correct me if I'm wrong with any of this, but I just want to go over some of the areas that we are building. Everyone knows what's going on in the economy right now. Builders are constricting a little bit. Homes are constricting a little bit. Jobs are constricting a little bit. And it's a tougher economy than what we're used to right now. When builders aren't building as much right now, Charles just keeps going. He just keeps going. Right now we had those condos in Embrun, which when we took over the project, we had quite a few of them. We've just conditionally sold our last one, so we won't even talk about that right now. Townhomes in Russell right now, N units starting at $519.
Wow.
Yeah, and he has a special on right now for the middle units. He'll put an ensuite in, and it's $10,000 off the price. So a 3-bed, 3-bath for $505.
Did Rushforth talk you into this? Or
we all work together.
Well, listen. You can actually get an ensuite, so 3-bed, 3-bathroom with a finished basement for under $520, which is like nowadays that's a $650 all day in most subdivisions. So that's in Russell, which the project is we're digging next week, Charles, or maybe early February or early March, or
we should have a permit next week, and if we do, I'm like a bionic groundhog. I want to dig.
Yeah. So we'll be starting those with probably like a July, August occupancy for those Russell towns.
That fast?
That's how fast he's building.
Well, I want to say, too, that the location out there in Russell is amazing, Charles. How close it is to the town. And it's in the town, but just a killer location there.
Russell is a very nice spot, definitely.
Now we have even the Rockland Towns, Clément Cove. We've almost sold out that subdivision. There's really 4 walkout units with 70-foot backyards backing onto the golf course. A couple of them have 8x15 decks off the main floor, so you have a second floor deck. And there's one end unit available out there as well. It has $30,000 of upgrades. Middle units are starting at $515, backing onto a very, very popular Rockland golf course. So it's a really amazing location. Another development we have out in Rockland, Golf Ridge. That's a December occupancy. Shovels should be in the ground within probably another 2 weeks, Charles.
Roughly, yeah.
And that's also backing on the golf course. And if you remember, I beat up Charles last time he was on the show, and I got those down to $499. He's kept starting at $499 for a townhouse backing on the golf course.
Wow.
It's unheard of. And then the last project we have on the go right now is Rockland Condos, right on the golf course as well. There's 4 units that are available right now for under $450. And then, of course, we have Building 6, which he's about to dig very soon. Those ones have the heated underground parking starting at $489. So there's a lot of product when it comes to the condos, the townhomes. And if you know the Rockland golf course, it's a beautiful golf course. And he basically he's surrounded the golf course. So he's got tons of product surrounding the golf course. And then, of course, Russell with the townhomes there. But the nice thing about it is the product is, the way he builds, you'd think he'd be $550 to $600. The way he builds and the quality he puts into his builds, but he's kept it so affordable. You can jump in for $500,000 for a townhome, all the way up. As you upgrade a little bit more, you're up into the higher numbers. But for $500,000 on the golf course in Rockland, come on, that's crazy.
I know the finishings are nice, but it's what you can't see that's important too.
Well, I'll let Charles talk about that. I agree with that.
Yeah, we have major difference compared to the industry. The party wall, definitely the concrete wall with the 2 wood wall beside and insulation. The industry standard is 48 decibel. We're about 68. So we're really above, and that's an important feature.
Yeah, you won't hear your neighbors at
no,
all, will you?
At all. And the other thing, it sounds simple, but plywood, it is an important feature.
You still use plywood?
Yeah. And it's glued and screwed as it's installed. We have no squeaking floor.
Wow.
That's an important feature. The foundation as well. It's a spray membrane on the foundation with platon for drainage. It sounds good, but it's actually very good because every foundation will crack.
Yeah.
But the membrane won't crack. And as I said, I want to touch wood. I haven't heard about a foundation leak in a long time.
Yeah, which is big.
Yeah,
which is big, especially with our weather. So
in the 32 years you've been doing this, how many communities have you built?
Oh my God, I'm going to say we're over 1,500 units.
Wow!
And just in Rockland, probably 950, close to 1,000.
Wow!
Yeah. He's put a big target on our back this year. He wants a good number of sales this year. And I said to him, not only do I want to hit those, but I want you to keep building. Let's go. Keep going.
You're doing well year over year. You've sold more this year than last year at this time.
Every year we do well. The COVID was the biggest years.
I can imagine.
Yeah, but we can't have it all the time. But it gave us it made us organized to go to that level.
Well, now that rates have come down, Frank, should be even better this year, huh?
Well, should be. I mean, the rates were certainly headed downwards much quicker had the tariffs been in place, but obviously would have done damage everywhere else. But
don't hold your breath. We're not done yet.
Oh, I know. I mean, you never know what's going to happen still. I mean, I'd like to think that, cooler minds will prevail and we'll come to a conclusion that, allows Canada to be an ally and not an enemy of the U.S. Because we work way better together. And I'm curious, actually, to find out from Charles whether these tariffs will have any effect on house builders, materials, anything like that.
We are worried. We have to be careful. Some of the material comes from the state. Most of the HVAC, the furnace, the air conditioning, they all come from the state. So we're just being careful.
Yeah, there was something on the news this week about, the builders, and they had some of the, Ottawa's really, really big builders on there that have really slowed down their building because they're worried that the costs are going to get out of control. And of course, when they have to pay more, the consumer has to pay more, and so now their product becomes unaffordable. So I think everyone's really stressed right now. I mean, when you think about it, we're going to see the government, doesn't matter what party's in, the government is going to constrict a little bit. There's going to be job losses. We have major companies right now, private companies that aren't spending the money they used to. They're laying off some workforce, so they're going to be constricting as well. Inflation and unemployment has to go up. I mean, unemployment's definitely, our numbers were great this month, but it has to go up. People are going to be losing jobs over this. So I think our economy is even with the threat of tariffs. I know that, we've taken a 30-day pause, but even with the threat of tariffs, it is going to impact this market. And I've been very rosy on the market and very robust on the market. It's going to be 30 days of sit and wait. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of fear. And no one really knows what's going on. The only thing we do know is rates will come down, and they'll probably come down faster, as Frank will probably tell you, because we will see unemployment go up. We will see inflation go up, and I think rates will come down even quicker. I hope it's just enough to push that market forward.
Well, I was in such a good mood when I got here.
Well, hey, listen, we're not a show that sits here and blows smoke. We're a show that tells the real truth, right? Yeah. And that's the real truth. We're in for a little bit of uncertainty, anxiety right now, and that's the real truth.
521-TALK, 521-8255. We will be right back. Paul Rushforth is here. Frank Napolitano here. Charles Clément from Clément Homes. And Franken just hanging out in Punta Cana.
Frank, what's the real estate market like in Punta Cana?
It's probably pretty good considering, now it's expensive. I was looking at some properties and boy, it's expensive here, but...
How's the Canadian dollar hold up, Frank?
Again, they like American money here. Nobody likes Canadian money anywhere, it seems, except for in Canada. So they like their American dollars here, which is expensive to get.
Yeah.
In Canada, at least, it came back a little bit closer to 69 cents after it went all the way down to 66 cents. But, we saw a job report that came out yesterday, which again is a head scratcher, how many jobs got created, specifically government jobs, again, over 30,000 government jobs. I mean, the numbers sometimes are head scratchers, but, it's going to be interesting because the next Bank of Canada announcement's on the 12th of March, and there's a job report on the 7th of March. So that job report, it went from 90%, a quarter percent, that the Bank of Canada was going to drop a 0.25% on March 12th down to 50% because of the job report yesterday. So
how do we create 76,000 jobs when they only create 144,000 in the States?
Yeah. Hey, Frank, what was funny is this morning, I talked to a friend of ours. You were away, so I talked to a friend of ours who I'm talking about is a mortgage broker, just to get some, his thoughts on what's going on in the market and that, because no matter what I read from any economist, market's going up, market's going down. Rates are going up, rates are going down. Inflation's going up, inflation's going down. Like there's no
dartboard.
It's like a dartboard going on, and I think you and I have a pretty good handle on what we think is going on, but it's so hard when the economists are, rates are plummeting right now because of all the uncertainty. And then Frank's just saying, went from 90% quarter drop to 50%. And there's more economists saying that it's almost like a 0% chance it's coming down. You just never know with all these economists. You really have to have your ear to the ground on in this economy for sure.
But it's not horrible now. I mean, you can get a 5-year variable and a 5-year fixed almost at par, right, Frank?
Yeah, you're in the 4.5% range, which is, again, reasonable number. Do I think they should be lower? I mean, if the tariffs were going to take effect, we would have seen 5-year mortgages in the threes. We would have seen 3.89, 3.99 likely at this time. Now, the bond markets came down quickly enough that there was a good chance that some of the lenders were going to drop their rates. We've got 4-point uninsured mortgages. I believe we have 4.24, 4.19 available on a 5-year, which is pretty good. And if you're looking at an adjustable/variable rate mortgage right now, you're just below 4.5%. So, again, there's about a 0.25% difference between the two. But the likelihood is still that prime rate is still expected to come down regardless of what happens with the tariffs. Prime rate is expected to come down by another 0.75% to 1% between now and the end of 2025. So
wow.
At the same time, I mean, it feels like fixed rates will at some point start to come down. Again, I mean, it all depends on how the tariffs get implemented moving forward.
Where do you think fixed rates should be right now?
Where do I think they should be?
Yeah.
They should be in the high 3s to low 4s based on where the bond market's at. But you've got, banks and lenders that are playing the conservative game right now because the volatility is so high from day to day. I mean, we saw bond markets come down about 70 basis points over a 3-week period, but just like that, they went up 15, 20 basis points in a 2-day period. And that's how volatile they are. So there was talk on Tuesday that we were going to see 389, 399 from some lenders. Then the 30-day pause got put on the tariffs, and all of a sudden that talk went away real quickly. Rates came down. I think some lenders are still at 4.39, 4.34, where we've got a couple of them at 4.19, 4.24 because the volumes we do. But realistically, they should all be in the low 4s. Unfortunately, they're not because they just don't want to. They just don't want to change rates on a daily basis. They'd rather set them up and let them sit there. And if the bond markets do go down, they're okay to wait 3, 4, 5 days before they actually drop them to make sure that those bond markets do stay down.
Frank, what's the best variance we can get on a variable rate mortgage right now? Prime minus
75, 80 is common. I mean, a lot of lenders have come down to 65, 70. Banks start at 35 or 40, and you got to talk them up / talk them down to the 60, 70. But the prime minus 1 is not available right now. There's a couple of smaller lenders out there that might do prime minus 85. But overall, I mean, I would say prime minus 75 seems to be the average.
We've always, I'm a little bit more bullish. So I'm less bullish right now on the market, but I'm more bullish on the rates going down. And the reason is they've already come out and said, it doesn't matter who gets in, conservatives, liberals. I mean, it doesn't really matter. They are going to constrict the government a little bit. The private sector is going to constrict a little bit too. So unemployment has to go up. Inflation has to go up. The rates 100% have to go down. So when you say 0.75 of a point, maybe a point, I actually think it might be more than that. And I'm hoping it's going to be more than that. I think it might be 1.5 points by the end of the year. But I mean, obviously that's your wheelhouse, but that's what I'm predicting anyways.
Yeah, the only one I'm going to disagree on you is on the inflation number. I'll say this, that every single the new Liberal leaders, whoever it ends up being, has talked about getting rid of the carbon tax. Obviously, Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives have made that their fundamental reason for them being voted in is that the carbon tax is going to be eliminated, axe the tax. So I'm not an economist, but I look at this based on all my history of doing this. And if we're eliminating carbon tax, listen, we're talking about, big time dollars when it comes to we're going to see the gasoline prices come way down. We should see them come way down unless the government's going to let the corporations continue to leave prices where they are, and they're going to pocket the profits. I sure hope they're going to take care of that. Heating bills for homes are going to come down. Food prices should come down. So believe it or not, in my opinion, at least the way I feel, I think we may have deflation when it comes to, if we get rid of the carbon taxes, these numbers come down. Again, keep in mind, inflation's year over year. So we're going to compare last year's food prices to this year's, and now we no longer have carbon tax. That should be a negative number. If we're going to compare gasoline, it should be a negative number unless oil prices go up. So, we might have deflation, which isn't a bad thing necessarily, but it still means that we're probably going to maybe not have as many job losses because if the cost of everything is less, then hopefully we'll be able to create more jobs and the unemployment won't go down as much. But I do believe that the unemployment number should go up.
Yeah, that's positive news. I'm glad to hear that because in a market right now that has a lot of uncertainty, that's positive to hear.
That should help with new construction as well, right?
Yeah, it does. It does. We have access to a lot more trades now because there's less people working. We see it. We sometimes should have one crew of electrician, but we have 3.
Wow.
Yeah.
But the one thing, Charles, that you take a lot of pride in, which I like, is you actually worry about the trades. A lot of builders are like, oh,
well, he sure keeps them busy.
Well, but he worries about them. He's like, okay, you know what? I have to start building at this time because, they can't be laid off for more than 2 months. I need to keep them busy. So I want this crew starting in February. We were talking about it before, where a lot of builders were like, I don't really care about my trades. I want to make some money here. Well, Charles is like, no, I got to keep my trades busy. It's a quiet time. I want to keep them busy. So not a lot of builders do that.
But once you get good trades, you want to keep them, right?
Yeah, and I have some trades since 10 years, 15 years. So they've been partner with us for a long time. And I have to keep them busy.
Well, your whole company is like a family. They've been with you forever, right?
Yeah.
And just when we come back on the break, one thing we talked about before getting on the radio, which you and I were quite impressed with and Greg was quite impressed with, was the fact that Charles actually hired an old city inspector on staff for quality control, because we know that homes may not be built the same as they were 20, 30 years ago. There's lots of builders that cut a lot of corners, but when you have someone on staff who's on quality control and make sure their trades are doing what they said they were going to do, that's worth a lot. So I don't know if we have time for that.
But you're above minimum requirements anyway, right?
Yeah, we have to be different. And that city inspector that joined us is giving us the assurance that we're building properly. Sometimes you look at a construction and the site super will look at it and he doesn't see everything. So this guy comes behind and works in cooperation, sit down with them, goes on each project, and make sure that everything is done properly. So it
must save you a lot of time in the long run too.
It does, but that's something that sometimes customer doesn't know, and it's directly related to after sales service. So the after sales service is really going down. We don't have much,
which is a very big cost for builders when they have to come back and fix things and stuff.
Oh, what a huge compliment too.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had a couple texts saying, where can we see these homes? You can go to paulrushforth.com or you could go to Charles' website, clementhomes.ca.
Where you'll see Paul's picture bigger than Charles for some reason. I can't figure this out.
It could be the good looks. I don't know.
I don't think so. 521-TALK, 521-8255. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. All right, what's going on with the inventory there, Paul? 5.4 months now.
Yeah.
Last year was 3.3.
So our inventory is starting to creep up. Our listings, 55% more active listings on the market. So our inventory is definitely creeping up. It's not a bad problem. It's always a bad problem when we're in a tough market, though. Like, inventory creeping up when we're in a great market is awesome.
Good for buyers, right?
Yeah, great for buyers. I mean, keep in mind, buyers were penalized through COVID. I mean, they were buying homes on sometimes on not even seeing them. They had to buy homes. Now they have an opportunity. I get all the feedback for the company, and I'll see feedback that says, beautiful home, but, I'm going to take the next few weeks and look around at others, and then we'll circle back. Well, during COVID, that would have been like, we're going to take the next 10 seconds to catch a breath, and then we'll be putting in our offer. So it's not a bad thing having this much inventory. It's tough when you're selling. We still have some very unrealistic sellers who still think we're in those COVID months. Who, my neighbor 2 years ago sold for 1.1. Well, the market is entirely different. You take a look at some of the townhomes in suburbia that were selling in the 7s are now in the low 6s, and they're actually a struggle to sell. So we've seen
not only that, but if you can buy a new one in the 5s,
well, that's why Charles' product is so nice, because it's in the low 5s and creeps up to to the mid 5s if you want like tickety boo everything. But even your getting on your upgrades. His upgrades are standards, like the granites, the hardwoods, the ceramic. That's all standard. Like there's no linoleum in Charles's house. Like it's the upgrades on most builders are Charles's standards. Kitchens, high end, carpets are nice and plush. So, but yeah, we are in.
Are we going towards a buyer's market now?
We will be going towards a buyer's market. I think we're in a balanced market right now. We're in a seller's market for the longest time. Even when we felt like we were in a balanced market, we were still in a seller's market. We're now in a balanced market, which feels more like a buyer's market. So we will start creeping into a buyer's market for sure.
So where do you see the next 3 months?
You know what? Frank will tell you, it's a lot of uncertainty right now. It all depends on, let's just say the world is waiting on Trump. That's the variable that no one knows. And Frank and I, we could usually predict every market that there is. This is a tough one to predict because we don't know what Trump is going to do. We don't know how it's going to affect our economy, how it's going to affect our builders, how it's going to affect our consumers, how it's going to affect jobs, inflation.
What do you see happening, Frank?
Well, what I see happening is Donald Trump really, like Paul says, I mean, he does hold the hammer. That being said, I feel like cooler minds are going to prevail. I think he was serious when he said, let's get the border fixed. And, some of the media puts out there, well, fentanyl is only 1 or 2%. True, but 1 or 2% is 1 or 2% more than it should be. So if fentanyl is being done in Canada, then yeah, we expect our police to make sure that they shut it down and stop it from happening, because one death is too many when it comes to that. So,
but what do you see happening in the market in the next 3 to 4?
Well, he's just saying it all depends on Trump.
No, but
it does. But at the same time, I think if cooler heads prevail and we do what we're supposed to do, which is what Trump wants, then the tariffs will go away. Now, I think what he's done, which is interesting, and maybe he's actually helped Canada. I think I think there's a lot of Canadians that now are going out of their way to shop Canadian. And do I think that it'll dissipate over time? Maybe. But at the same time, I think it opened their eyes to hopefully getting rid of some of these interprovincial tariffs that are there right now.
Yeah, that's a big one.
And it's a huge one. So we could be better as a country thanks to Donald Trump opening our eyes for us. So again, I mean, for anybody that love him or hate him, he does have some valid points sometimes, as much as he's got some wacky ones. But one of the things that I believe that he's done is he may have brought Canada actually closer together, which might be a good thing for businesses. At the same time,
go ahead, Frank.
At the same time, what I was going to ask Charles actually is, I believe that the Conservatives also put something out there where they're going to eliminate the HST from home builders to get more homes built. That should have a big impact as well, wouldn't it, Charles?
That would definitely. It would make a difference.
Yeah, it's if they did something like that. I mean, especially the builders like Charles who are building that first time home product, because we've talked ad nauseum about first time home buyers are responsible for a third of our market. If we can get them back in the market as the rates come down, which we're trying to do, then the market just starts to take off. And I've been saying probably since October that the product that is going to move the fastest are the entry-level product for first-time home buyers in the townhomes and the condos. And that was happening until the threat of the tariffs came, and then it kind of just slowed down a little bit. But it is still the affordable product that most people can afford. As we're getting all these first-time home buyers back into the market, that is exactly what they're buying. So I've met with some sellers this week who are buying a townhome but selling their 1.1, and they're like, well, maybe I should wait a year. And I said, well, what's going to happen is your 1.1 potentially could be worth 1.1 and maybe a tiny bit of change in another year. But that townhome that you're looking at for, $500, $600 could be worth $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 more. So I wouldn't sleep on the townhomes and the entry-level product, but the thing that might be the slowest moving product going forward might be the higher-end homes compared to the entry-level product.
30-year amortization's got to help too, right, Frank?
Have helped tremendously. For first-time home buyers, it's given them some flexibility on their payments that allows them to realistically look at buying a new home. If you're buying a home in the $500,000 range and you have 5% down and you're able to get that 30-year amortization, it'll be a big boost for builders, and it'll help Canadians at least get into this entry-level home, which isn't their forever home. It's just a home that they can get into, build some equity over the next 5 years, and then be able to relook at it 5 years from now when hopefully their careers have taken another path and they're making more money. And at the same time, they've built some equity in their homes that they've got a larger down payment to be able to go out there and upgrade their home by one level, which is the way it's always been in Canada. It's just been set back a little bit over the last 3 or 4 years because of what happened during the pandemic.
Well, we could be coming into a good time. If you've got amortizations at 30 years, you've got interest rates coming down, and if that HST is gone off new builds, that's huge.
Well, it's going to be huge, and right now we've gone through so many markets with uncertainty. Like probably our last 5 years
since COVID,
we've had tons of uncertainty. Lots of builders, lots of buyers, lots of sellers have made good money during the COVID years, but there's still been lots of uncertainty. We're still going through that. This is a storm we will weather. And it's, all we need to do is just take the fear and the anxiety out of that purchase and out of that sale and out of that build, and things will be okay. It's just uncertainty right now. My advice to most people, and this is what I'm giving my own advice right now, Stop watching the news.
Oh, I know.
So, I almost want to vomit when I hear the news. It just, one, it's all bad. And two, you don't know what's the real story and what's the wrong story. So that's why I personally, I know Frank does the same. I know Charles does the same. Steve, I don't think you know how to read. But anyways, that's why we spend most of our time doing research from reputable resources to find out exactly what's going on in this market. And I do believe it is going to get better. We're still in a great time to buy and sell properties. We're still in a great time to get financing for these properties. We're still in an amazing time. We're just on a little bit of a blip and a little bit of fear and uncertainty, which will be dissipated faster than we think.
As a builder, how do you plan in these uncertain times?
It's a good question. It's tough. The economy is like up and down like a toilet seat. We have to, with experience, I'm calm. I'm confident. And you know what, Paul? We always find a way.
Yeah.
Through every storm. And I'm not scared anymore of a storm. We've been through many. And we just have to be creative. And I look at the month of January, and I think we're doing well.
Yeah.
How far ahead do you have to plan?
I plan a long time ahead.
Yeah, but you've got to find land. You've got to...
Exactly. I'm 5 years ahead all the time. And it's tough because sometimes you purchase a piece of land, then there's a slowdown in sale, but you keep on spending, making this land ready for servicing, and then you service the land, and then you get into big costs. But we have to be confident. We plan everything, and we don't take too much risk, and we just keep on moving.
There's so many upfront costs to a builder.
There is. But you know what? It's part of my world, and I'm used to this, and I'll compare this to hockey. We train ourselves. We become comfortable through those, risk, and we just live with it.
A new home builder is much like a real estate agent. You have to put out lots of money and do lots of work with the hope of getting paid one day.
Never sure of 5 years down the road what it's going to be worth.
Well, listen, when I started working with Charles a few years ago, he was talking about this land that he purchased well in advance in Russell. Well, guess what we're building right now?
Yeah.
Russell. And we talked about that years ago, that he had this land, and he's talking about other land and for all you people who are in the West End, he's also talking about some land in the West End too. So there's a lot of projects that Charles has got. And
how do you juggle all these balls?
It's fun. I have fun every day, and we'll have a conversation, and we'll say, okay, yeah, that's a good idea, and we can't say where exactly in the West End, but amazing spot.
Amazing spot.
So nowhere near your place then.
Yeah, no.
521-TALK, 521-8255. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. What is it, 28 degrees there, Frank?
Oh.
It is 28. And by the way, I want to say to Charles, too, I think, if I'm not mistaken, isn't it the Conservative government that's also come out and said if they get voted in, they're going to put a plan together where development charges have to come down, otherwise they're going to hold it against the city with some funding?
Is this provincial you're talking, Frank?
I don't know if it's provincial or municipal. It could be both, actually, but maybe Charles will know a little bit more being a home builder.
Okay, well, development charge is something that is going up right now. Yeah. And it's a battle that we have. We are a group of builders grouping up together to make sure that we know and we understand that some city have to adjust their development charge. But right now it's almost scary.
Well, Charles, I know you don't want to say where because it kind of paints a picture, but one place that Charles is building, they're almost trying to double charges. And that's
what's going on there with the push for new homes and everything. It should be getting easier and easier.
It creates a lot of stress on the city. They have a lot of projects that they have to put in place for all those homes coming in. We understand. We're trying to be reasonable. I think we'll find a way, but they will go up. So I don't think development charge will go down. That'd be amazing, but I don't think so.
Well, and the problem with development charges going up, which means Charles, it starts eating into his bottom line, which means he has to raise prices. That means homes are going to get a little bit more expensive now.
Plus, it's such an upfront fee.
Well, you don't. There's a lot of times where Charles comes to us and he's like, okay, I need 3 more builds in this block because otherwise I'm forking this out of my own pocket. I can't get financing. And Frank, you would know, during the last couple of years when the rates have been crazy and Charles has all this product that he's holding financing on, the rates aren't at 1% and 2%. They're at drastically higher.
No, you're absolutely right. And, it impacts builders. And, we talk about mortgages all the time, but it impacts businesses. It impacts tradespeople. All these interest rates, the really good tradespeople usually have lines of credits that they front some of their charges on, and then they got to pay it back. And if they're not busy and they use that line of credit and they can't pay it down, then all of a sudden they're incurring interest at much higher rates than during the pandemic. So during the pandemic, it was a little easier. Not so easy these days.
Yeah.
I want to go back to development charges. If they held them the same, the municipalities would get it back in taxes for years to come. Why do they keep it? Are we not trying to build more and more homes now?
Yeah, we are. But I think the provincial is not helping as much from what we understand, all municipality. And they're kind of left alone to deal with this. And they have a lot of infrastructure that they have to fix, like right now, to be able for us to continue building. And there's other project. Every municipality wants to have special items, and they all put this into development charge. And we do understand because it helps us.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of that money too goes towards things like parks and paths and all that kind of stuff, right? So I mean, it does help the community at the same time, but
what doesn't help is 3 levels of government.
Yeah, everyone's got their hands in just about everything, right?
Like, wouldn't it be nice to streamline it down to answer to one group?
Oh, it'd be nice, and there'll be less fight between the 3 level.
Yes, yeah.
That's the thing now.
But when you're buying off a reputable builder like Charles, the one thing that if he says my subdivision is going to start here and end here, my shovels are going to be in the ground here, he's very well connected in the municipalities and the cities because he's been doing it for a long time, and he pays on time and he does a good job with his building, and he builds a community. So when we say that, some of these subdivisions are starting next week and, closing date is, whether it's July, August, September, they're usually spot on with their closing dates. Spot on.
What's the furthest out I could buy a condo or a townhome?
Furthest out, meaning?
From now, months from now.
You could buy...
if I'm young, I want to close later, but I have enough for my deposit and down payment and all that.
I have many projects available at many different dates. You could buy for next year. The only thing is we can't fix the price because a lot of things can happen.
Right.
We can say suggested price to be confirmed because of everything we just talked about, but someone could put a reserve on a unit for next year.
For example, something in Russell. In Russell, we have how many phases in Russell, Charles? Like, we have how many townhomes are we putting in Russell? There's
71, I think.
So 71. So he's going to sell, 6 to 8 at a time, this block. So 2 blocks at a time. Because by the time he's done that, it's much what most builders are doing. Prices go up. He can't say, in 3 years when this project's done, you can get that townhome for $515. When the rest of them are going for $650.
If the HST goes, you might get it for less.
There you go. Absolutely. So you could, but there's lots that, some of them are not going to be built. Some of them are not built till December of this year.
Yeah.
Well, so you have a lot of time to save and you don't have to close on it till December. You got to put down a very, very easy deposit to hold the lot in that. And then you can wait till December till you have to get your mortgage.
Great choice though, huh?
Yeah. We are starting to receive a letter from supplier right now and trades warning us that the material or the work could go up.
Yeah.
Through the
really?
Year. Yeah.
Which is scary for him because he's fixed in prices right now, closing in, 8, 10, 12 months. Well, but his supplies might go up.
Frank, where do you see optimism now? Are people coming into your office looking ahead to the spring and summer?
They are, actually. First-time home buyers are a little more enthusiastic. Lower interest rates have helped. 30-year amortizations help. The fact that the prices of new builds is much more reasonable than during the pandemic when, townhouses were going for $700,000-800,000. Now you can get a townhouse in the $500,000-600,000 range, which is, once you look at the lower interest rates, the 30-year amortization, all of a sudden it compares to if you had to rent a property today, that $28,000, $29,000, $3,000 you would pay for a townhouse rental. you can own it for virtually the same and maybe a couple of $100 more per month. So enthusiasm there where, a year ago when the interest rates were 1.25% more, you were out $1,000, $1,200 a month more if you own versus renting. So it was difficult to make that transition where now it's either a par or maybe a couple of $100 more. So all of a sudden that transition becomes much easier if you can get the down payment. And again, a lot of first-time home buyers, if they're having a tough time qualifying, we're seeing we have lenders that will allow the parents and or an immediate family member to go on as a guarantor, which means the parent is not on title, the parent is not on the mortgage, they're just there as a guarantor. But it allows us to use their income to help the kids qualify. So we're seeing so much of that these days where the parents are involved in probably a third of every first-time home buyer's purchase these days.
Frank, I would like to see that program be a little bit more advertised. I've talked to people about that, and I'm just like, well, you can go on as a guarantor. Well, that hurts my credit. No, it doesn't.
It doesn't.
But I'd say 4.5 out of 5 people I talk to have no idea about that program. No idea.
I'll tell you why. Because the big banks don't allow it. The big banks want the parents to go on as co-signers.
Yeah.
So therefore, it does show up on their credit check. It does impact their future borrowing power, and it could impact their credit score should the kids miss a payment. Because if the kids miss a payment, then it impacts the parents too, because they're on the mortgage and they may have no knowledge that the kids have missed a payment.
If you co-sign, does it show as your debt, Frank?
Guarantor, not co-sign. Co-sign,
Co-sign, yes. You are 100% responsible for the mortgage, regardless of, and I know that when you go to the lawyers, you do a 1% deal where the kids are 99% owners. But as far as the mortgage is concerned and the lender's concerned, if you're a co-signer, you are 100% responsible for that mortgage. So there's no 1% in that. Whereas a guarantor doesn't show up on a credit bureau. You don't go on title. All you do is you sign a document at the lawyers that basically what it says is that if you're guaranteeing that mortgage and whoever you're guaranteeing it for misses a payment, the lender has the right to call you and get the payments up to date. If you choose not to, then that's okay. If they have to start legal action, it's going to impact the kids much more, obviously. But if that lender sells the house and loses money, you have given them the right to come after you for the loss. So
right, but in that case, you would just sell the house.
Well,
all right, birthdays, Frank.
The point is if the values come down on the house, that's where there's a problem, right? So if they sell it for less than what is owed, that's where the problem.
Paul will get them the money.
Yeah.
Birthdays, Frank.
Birthdays, I got a couple, and obviously my very, very good friend and business partner, Michael Hapke, celebrating his birthday today. Happy birthday to Mikey. Lama, Dorothy from our office celebrating their birthdays this week, and my son-in-law, who gave me my beautiful granddaughter along with my daughter, Gia, celebrates his birthday this week. So happy birthday to Andrew.
Have a great time, Frank. I hope you don't come back burnt, and no more pictures of you in those Speedos. I do want to thank Charles for coming on the show. ClémentHomes.ca if you want to see all his beautiful product, or PaulRushforth.com if they're on there as well.
On your website, does it show the quality of the builds?
Yeah, we have
it's
a section.
It's worth reading about.
Yeah, there's a section that shows industry and what we do.
Awesome.
Thank you very much for coming in. Have a great week, everybody.
Thank you to everyone.
Have a great week.
Thank you. Please